Jigar Mistry is co-founder of Buoyant Capital, who's joining us right now. Jigar, great to have you with us here. Thank you very much. Your insights into what is going on, Jigar. This sell-off once again, a very large one this time, pretty widespread.
Good morning, Prashant. Thank you for inviting me again. Yeah, actually, the whole CY21 has been, sort of, here and there. So it started in Feb to April with very range-bound movement. Then May, 1 month, we gained almost 1,000 points. And then the breather was till breather was till August, rally till mid-October. And since then, we have been sort of falling apart. To some extent, we could sort of put it through the fact that FIs have sold in October, November, and part of December more than what they have sold, even in March 2020. So, to some extent, that is a liquidity-driven issue. To some extent, I think the fact that interest rates across the globe, driven by what inflation print has been being mentioned, is bothering some people, right? So there are two things one needs to take in care while we are dealing with this. Yes, BOE raised rates yesterday. Fed did mention that the pace of taper will increase, and arguably the interest rate cycle will start moving up once the taper is finished. Now, if you look at the previous cycles of interest rate hikes by the Fed, right, there were two cycles since 2000 which are worth mentioning. One was between June 2004 and May 2006, during which time the Fed fund rates rose from 1% to 5%. And the second cycle was in November 2015 to December 2017, when the rates, there was a range by then. So in the median point, it was 0.125 to 1.375 percentage points. During the first episode, the Sensex actually rose 115%. During the second episode, the Sensex actually rose 21%. So, there was a taper tantrum in 2013 where people worried that Fed would do something and therefore the markets reacted to that. We could see this as a mini tantrum in terms of, how it impacts the liquidity as far as the emerging markets are concerned, and therefore that includes India as well. Going to the fundamental part of it, I think some parts of the markets are becoming a lot more interesting after the current correction. Today looks like, as you very well put it, looks like a give up sort of a trade, saying that, look, FIs are not stopping. How long are the domestics going to prop up their own thing? And therefore, there was some sort of a give up which has already happened, I think. And from here on, I think we should be looking to get into businesses that sounds interesting. Could be different for different people, but it is a decent time to start getting positioned for that.
All right. Hi, Jigar. Good morning. This is Pavitra. The question is, how much more of a fall do you see from here, right? With all of these Omicron fears around, with us already beginning to see some disruption, even when we constantly talk about the fact that we are quite used to living with COVID, there is already disruption beginning to show up, right? Maybe not as bad as the first two waves, but how much more of a fall do you think this could lead to?
Yeah, good morning, Pavitra. So, you are right, as wide, and again, I'm not an expert in this, but what I've heard people say, the viruses actually cannot survive without the host, and over periods of time they tend to be more virulent and less pathogenic, which means that they'll transmit a lot more easily, but they'll make sure that they are not as lethal as the first and second wave. I think governments across the globe understand this, and as far as it relates to infections and hospitalizations, you could see an elevated number, but it is unlikely that it will create a supply chain issue which we have witnessed in the first two rounds, which is, I think, to some extent evident from the fact that, across the board things are getting released. So you will see the regional pressures that you saw, commodities not available across the globe, etc. Those sort of things are not likely to happen from what it appears as of now. Very early to say a lot of these things, but from what it appears at the moment, it's unlikely that we are going into some big lockdowns going forward. And therefore, we will sort of adapt to live with one more virus. We already live with the flu, and this could become slowly with Omicron into a similar sort of variety where booster shots will exist, but eventually it will not shut down a lot of things. And as long as that doesn't happen, the cycles will get accentuated, but they'll also provide opportunities to position your portfolio accordingly.
Okay. Jigar, just your sense on, the expectations you'd have from the so-called defensives of the market. every time we get into Omicron or COVID sort of a spiral, typically pharma IT, they tend to outperform. Would you expect that to play out over the next coming few weeks and months maybe?
I doubt it, Surabhi. So what is happening is that, see, all these sectors, if you look at the last 21 years, the sectors do churn, right? So just pre-COVID, you saw FMCG as the best, or rather within the COVID period, you saw FMCG as the best performing sector and metals as the worst performing one. That essentially flipped around since April to November, where metals was the best performing sector and FMCG was the worst. Now, if you look back into two further cycles, say 2013 onwards, the consumer durables have been the best performing ones. And since the onset, or rather since April 2020, those sectors have not really performed in line with everything else. And if you go further down even back, between say 2000 and 2002, which was a down cycle, and 2003 to 2007, capital goods was actually the best performing sector in both those cycles. It was in fact up close to 20 times those two cycles combined. And over the last 13 years, we have not seen capital goods perform as a sector. So I think these are cyclicalities which will get accentuated. Having seen these sort of results that we have seen from COVID, from how these companies have managed to perform, you're still dealing a lot with this being a cyclical business for the pharma companies. The actual US business is still falling, not at the same pace, but it is still falling. For a lot of these FMCG players, the cost inflation is still not behind them. And they're still raising prices in order to cope up with the inflation and make sure that margins stay stable. So as a business per se, they haven't gone anywhere. And if the markets continue to correct, they might not fall as much. But beyond the point, in absolute return upside basis, it's difficult for us to make a case on getting invested in these names.
Okay, Jigar, thank you very much. Jigar, by the way, use an interesting phrase to describe markets. Jigar, you want to say it or should I say it?
That was on a phone conversation. So I said it that it started with it being mouth-watering levels. It slowly come down to becoming eye-watering levels. So that was in jest, but yes.
All right, in jest, and we make light of the situation. I mean, not very much else one can do, right? Thank you very much, Jigar. Great to speak with you as always. Thank you for your time here on CNBC.